So this is almost a bonus lesson because it's not a method you have to use, but I really like it and enjoy working this way. It's perhaps a little backwards to the way you've been taught or some designers work, but I really like to start first of all with the fonts, and I'll explain why I've arranged these here like this in just a few moments. But we begin with the fonts and then the sketching comes afterwards. So for me, the advantage to that is I've picked my fonts. I've got a good idea of the tone of, 80%, because this is a word mark, maybe 80% of the, the detail that's going to really make this come to life. And then I'm adding these fine touches, and that's why I want to sketch, but I want to sketch with a little more accuracy. And we're going to take this page I've created here, simply export it as a JPEG, or a PNG is even better, then you've got transparency. And in Adobe Fresco, which we'll jump over to in the tutorial now, you simply import that image as a layer, which is very easy to do. So let's do that now, and I'll show you how we can work with the text I've prepared here. So something I found to be a great way to further customize type, when I've locked in a font, maybe a font pairing that I really like, is to pop this open. This is in Adobe Fresco, and all I've done is import a photo. You can use the little photo import button, and I just start duplicating that a few times. This layout I've created for myself. It's to allow me to explore the concept where we have an M at the beginning that links both of the letters together, and then I want to see if there's anything we could do further with this nice kind of semi-serif font at the top. And popping open in Adobe Fresco, it just gives you the ability. I'm just transforming these in place. They're PNGs. There, I think three should be more than enough. As long as you have a drawing layer, I'm just going to move this to the top of the stack. You can scribble and sketch over the top, and it's completely non-destructive. So you can have a little play. You could even erase away bits of the image and see how things might look. So I was considering maybe some sort of flourish here. No, that's too much, so we can go back. No. I mean, that really hasn't worked at all, but you can see how easy it is to kind of draw on top of what you have and just explore ideas. And it gives you the ability to look and think either, yeah, that's a great idea, or no, this really isn't going to work. Let's try a few more, in fact. This is another great thing about Adobe Fresco. I'm going to just do a new layer and try to get this M right. And I think maybe something that's quite scripty. And exaggerated. That actually isn't legible, but something along those lines, maybe. Yeah. Or let's loop that the other way. Yeah, I like that. It's miles away from an M, but if we can bring the legibility back, I really like the idea of that kind of shape. No, I keep going the wrong way with this. It's getting there. Let's start light. Let's go harder, and then light, and then harder and round. Yeah, maybe something like that. And this is where, because we've got a new layer, we can just drag and pop that in place. Erase away the ones we don't want. without erasing my one as well. And yeah, I quite like that. And then something else you can do, and this isn't supposed to be a Fresco tutorial, but it really is useful. Under the layer controls, you can just lower the opacity back. I'm going to give myself a faintest of outlines, then another new layer. And on this layer, I'm going to try to do it, I think, a little lighter. And I mean, I'm not someone skilled at calligraphy, but I can do enough to get by and then kind of digitally refine it to take it where I want. So for me, having that guide makes it so much easier. And I've got the smoothing quite, well, actually it's not too low, but I'm going to knock the smoothing right up. Let's delete that one and try again. I think I can do better here and just give us something to import. Oops. And to work with, got to stay light, and there's the pressure. Light again, pressure. Yeah, I'm liking that. I may perfect that off camera, but I think we've got something really strong there. Yeah, I really like that concept. And in fact, one last thing we could try, if I duplicate this, hit transform, and we'll take it to our last little area here, is I wonder if it could actually interact in some way. This is really close to the A, and I wonder, could I actually have this flick out and kind of form the center of the A? That could be a really nice touch. So let's lower the opacity here. Another new layer. Same brush as before because I'm looking for similar results. And yes, that I really like. That I really like the look of. I think we're really getting somewhere here. So you can see how useful it is to have this and to kind of combine the precision of starting with your fonts with the ability to, to kind of draw and decorate. And of course, something else you can do, I focused on scripts here, but you could actually look at manipulating the type itself. So you might decide you want to exaggerate the serifs for a particular font. So you could do that here. I'm doing it very, very roughly. But you could begin tweaking and see how that would look. And I said you could erase away portions of a letter. Well, to do that, I'm not sure erase works on an image, but so that it's non-destructive and I still have all my layers, I simply go to white or whatever the background color is, and then I use that to just paint over the top. Let's turn down the smoothing because that does lower our frame rate. And just like that, especially if you're someone that prefers to work with your hands, you can fly in and you can test out some edits. And especially if you're not as familiar with Illustrator, if it takes you a little while to construct and deconstruct things if you're starting out, this is a really quick and easy way to make fairly advanced changes to the letters and to see if they work before you commit the time to doing them digitally. So although technically we are working digitally, although on the iPad with the Apple Pencil. So I really like this technique. I think it's a great way of exploring the possibilities. I hope you enjoy it too. So we've imported these concepts from Fresco into Adobe Illustrator. There's a simple export button for that. And now we're ready to start refining and taking things a step further. And I did indeed work on this kind of flourish style M, which I really like. And I was able to refine it to this point here, which I'm really happy with. This is embarrassingly, I think, as good as I was able to do in the app with a pen. But thankfully, you are able to digitally refine it so that it looks far more professional. So thank goodness that's a possibility. I'll show you just quickly how I achieved that in case you want to do the same with a locked layer here and the best version I was able to create. You then want to open up your brush tool, and the shortcut is a memorable one, it's B, and you want to double click it from the toolbar and make sure the fidelity is all the way to its smoothest option and select OK. And then, and I haven't even plugged my graphics tablet in for this, so I'm going to do this freehand using a mouse because the digital smoothing is really quite impressive. Just to show you, you know, how easy it is to accomplish something professional from a rough sketch. So I'm just going to click and trace as carefully as I can, but not too carefully, around that sketch. And you'll see in a few moments we're going to have the opportunity to digitally refine this. So there we are. I'll hide the underlying layer. And it's done a fairly good job smoothing that out with the fidelity to max. We can smooth it further if you again have a brush tool selected, but you hold the Alt key. That brings up this smoothing tool. And as you draw over these lines, it just smooths them and refines them even further. And again, I'm doing this with a mouse, so this tool doesn't work based on kind of your control. Just as you give it a rough idea what you're aiming for, it does that for you. So lots of clicking later. I did arrive at a version that was nicely smooth, but you'll notice this has got differences in weight. And the way to accomplish that is using the line width tool, and Shift W is the shortcut for this. So the line width tool, and let's just show you on this version I created earlier, allows you to create width anchor points, and as you drag you can see you're able to manipulate the width of the shape. So it takes a little bit of playing with, and you've got to carefully place your anchor points. You can see I've placed one just here so that it transitions round into something nice and thin. And then at the very end we've got an anchor point where it reduces almost to nothing. It almost fades right out. Another little thin anchor point here. And you can see the difference between that and this, which looks far more elegant. So using that technique, even with no, I guess, natural calligraphic skills, I was able to create this this kind of abstract M flourish that I'm really happy with. And if we look at the results, when I combine this, because I had the benefit of that sketch, I was able to position it in such a way it would intersect with a crossbar of the A. It's another advantage of using this method. I think that looks stunning. I'm not sure about the end of it intersecting the S here, and in hindsight that almost forms a $sign. So I think I may have to remove that. Maybe I'll just have it taper off here, just after the A, but I'm really happy with that. And on black that looks equally stunning. So that's my concept. A little bit of manipulation, some time spent in Adobe Fresco, but not massive changes to the core font. But we've created something that looks really, really unique by focusing the attention on one letter and on layout and composition. So as you're following along in your class project, or perhaps you even have a real world project to follow along with, try to look for those opportunities, not to go overboard and not to, to break what's not broken in the first place, but for opportunities to add some flair and some creativity and to create something that's really unique.